Hi everyone. Some show and tell this week. This is coconut milk, homemade coconut milk. We're going to be talking about the best and healthiest forms of coconut milk. No, you don't have to make homemade. I'm going to have a buyer's guide for you too. I purposely left this in layers because it might resemble what you've seen in a can if you've opened a can of coconut milk. Creamy layer and a water layer. I'm going to talk about how to make this as we get into today's episode. Let's welcome you all. I should welcome you all to Ask Wardee. I'm Wardee from Traditional Cooking School by Gnalfglins, and I'm thrilled to gather with you another Wednesday for Ask Wardee, where I answer your questions about traditional cooking. We have one from Dawn M today. If you're joining me live on Facebook Live, know that Millie is right there in the comments answering questions and pasting links. If you're live or if you're listening later, the notes are ready for you. The transcript and the points and the links and everything I'm mentioning today is at askwardee.tv. Just look for episode 81. That's today's episode. Hello on Periscope, hello on Facebook. I'm so thrilled you're with me live. People who are coming in later and listening to the recordings, thanks for returning another week for Ask Wardee. I appreciate you all. Okay, so let's get into it. Coconut milk. What's the best coconut milk? What's the healthiest coconut milk? If you're shopping for coconut milk in online stores or in-person stores, you have a few options you may have looked. And the thing is, though, you have to be careful because if you're not careful, you will end up coming home with coconut milk that may have additives, preservatives, thickeners, even sweeteners. We don't need any of that stuff in our coconut milk. In fact, most of the things that are added to coconut milk, besides coconut and water, are really not good for you. So, the point of today's episode is really to help you navigate all those options so that you can choose the best and the healthiest coconut milk for you. There are options, and we're going to go through 3 of them, really, my top picks. First, let me read you Dawn M's question and welcome you all, especially Dawn. If you're here live or checking this out later, Dawn, I hope this will be helpful for you. So Dawn says, what is the best coconut milk to buy for all these smoothies and other recipes that call for it? It's a great question because, as I said, you could be shopping and you're like, what do I choose? And you could end up coming home with something that's not very good for you. I want to point out before we go on, coconut milk is an excellent milk substitute when you have to be dairy-free. That's why we talk about it. And in fact, I have a whole guide for you with a bunch of dairy-free milk recipes and a substitution guide for you. And it's going to be, there's a link right with this video or this recording. But if you're on Facebook Live, you can just look in the comments to sign up for that. So coconut milk, really versatile, can be subbed in virtually all. It's not 100%. You can't do it in 100% of recipes calling for milk because some recipes calling for milk actually need the chemical structure of milk. But if it's a beverage or baking, I mean, just 99% of the time, you can throw in another dairy-free milk like coconut milk, which is a little bit sweet, has a mild flavor, generally loved by most people. But grab my dairy-free milk recipes guide if you need other options because there's nut and seed milks. Some people just don't care for coconut. Okay, so let's get into answering Dawn's question. So there's a lot of brands out there. I can't possibly cover them all. So instead of going through them one by one, what I wanted to do instead was to give you principles so that when you're in the store, whether it's online or in person, you can look for certain qualities that are good. And it'll help you narrow down the choice. And let me repeat that. It really will help you narrow down the choice because there's a lot of options out there and very few of them are actually the best and what I would call the healthiest. So here are basically 3 things that you need to look for when you're shopping for coconut milk. Number 1 is organic. So just like we want our fruits and vegetables and our grains and our beans, our meats to be organic, we want our coconut milk to be organic too. This helps us keep the pesticide and herbicide and whatnot low down so we have a healthy coconut as the base for the milk. Really, really important. Second, no BPA. This is if you are getting like canned coconut milk. Well, a lot of cans out there are lined with BPA and that's no good for us at all. It's a separate topic on that, but you just take my word for it, or actually don't take my word for it. Do your research, but we've come to the conclusion that BPA is to be avoided. So you want BPA-free cans or containers if it comes in a container that could possibly have BPA, which would be cans. Okay? Or plastics. Okay, the third thing is, so we've gone through organic and BPA-free. Third is no extra ingredients. So remember I mentioned the additives and the preservatives. So there's sodium caseinate, there's guar gum, carrageenan, there could be added sweeteners. You don't need any of those things. I understand why they're used. Sometimes they're used to bring the cost down for the manufacturer, more profit for them. Either that or they pass it on to us, make it more shelf stable, thicken it so it doesn't separate like this. Anyway, they add these things. They're not necessary, and you can find coconut milk options out there that don't use them. You may be on a special diet where those preservatives and additives could literally make you sick or impede your healing journey. So that's why my qualification number 3 is no extra ingredients. Now there are exceptions, and I'm going to get to that when we get to the choices. So I also want to talk, Dawn, about the forms of coconut milk. So what I have here for you is homemade coconut milk. This is just blending shredded coconut and water. So you start by purchasing shredded coconut. There's other forms though, which you may know. So powdered, where you have a powder that you blend with water and then you chill. A cream concentrate, where it's like a creamy paste that you blend with water and chill. You can also have canned coconut milk, where you might find it in as full fat or a light version. And then you have cartons, either refrigerated or shelf stable. So those are all the different forms. I don't tend to consider the refrigerated or shelf stable cartons because I've yet to find any that don't have extra ingredients, but I haven't reviewed every brand out there. So if I'm wrong about that, then I give you all this assignment, or whoever knows that I might be wrong or have one that is an exception. AskWardee.tv, episode 81. Put in the comments there, this shelf-stable brand, doesn't have extra ingredients. But I also want to make sure it's BPA-free and organic. Anyway, those are the forms of coconut milk. So I'm not going to talk about the refrigerated or shelf-stable when I give you my top picks here in a moment. And just as a general rule, cans are very convenient. They are more costly. You're going to get, in my opinion, superior results, but need to put in a bit more effort if you use the powder or the cream concentrate, or you do homemade coconut milk like I'm going to talk about in a minute. Okay, so hopefully we're all on the same page now. The 3 characteristics you want to look for and the different forms that are out there. So when you're shopping, whatever form you're faced with, look at it. Is it organic? Is it a BPA-free container? Does it have any extra ingredients? And then you can either toss it or get it. You might want to look at other things too, like can you afford it? That's a personal decision you have to make, but in terms of the characteristics, I think that can help you navigate 100% of the choices that are out there. All right, now let's talk about the top 3 picks, because our family's not dairy-free, but we either have guests over that are dairy-free, or some of us keep dairy down or whatnot. So we often have dairy-free milks in our home. And once again, I invite you to get my complete dairy-free milks guide. It has recipes for all kinds of dairy-free milks, coconut included, and it has tips for helping you substitute for dairy in recipes. So look for the link with this video or recording to sign up for that if you haven't already. Okay. Top 3 picks for me that I recommend to you for coconut milk. So coconut milk is super, super, super easy to make. So it shouldn't be a surprise at all that my number 1 pick is actually to make it homemade. As I said at the top of the episode, I purposely left this separated. This was a batch I made this morning, so you can see there's kind of a coconut water and a cream layer here. And once you make it, you put it in the fridge, and then you shake it to redistribute it, and then you use it in your recipes. Let's talk about how to make it though. And it's very versatile. So I have my Vitamix here. You do need a high-powered blender in my opinion, and I love the Vitamix. Blendtec is another one. And I have my container here, and I filled it with unsweetened shredded coconut to the 2-cup mark. Really, the range is 1.5 to 2 cups for the amount that I'm talking about. And you could go less if you want it lighter and thinner. You could go more if you want it thicker, okay? But I put my 2 cups in, and one of the things I love about the Vitamix is it has your measurement marks right on it. So all I do is dump in coconut to the 2 cup mark, and then I go and I add water to the 6 cup mark. So it's gonna be a little bit shy of 6 cups water because this is gonna take up some of that room, but that's what I do. And then I cover it and I blend it on high for a few minutes. So 1.5 to 2 minutes. When it's done, you need to strain it through cheesecloth, and I did it this morning and I took a picture of that so in case you needed a little bit of understanding on that. Okay, so I've got a colander over a pot, lined it with cheesecloth, poured all the fibery coconut mixture into the cheesecloth, lifted up the ends, let it drip, also squeezed. Squeezing makes it happen faster. And then left in the cheesecloth is your fiber, your pulp, that you could toss into other baking or compost or something like that. But in the pot then is your luscious, creamy coconut milk. And that's really how simple it is. Now you can add sea salt, you can add vanilla extract, you could add stevia, you could add flavors to it, or you could wait and flavor it when you bake it. But at the point where you have it strained, you're going to put it in a jar and put it in the fridge to chill it. It will separate as I showed you before. And all you have to do is shake it to redistribute it, and then you use it in your beverages, your cakes, your smoothies, wherever coconut milk is called for, or another milk is called for, you use coconut milk instead. Super, super easy. There is, 2 downsides to homemade coconut milk. One of them I don't really consider a downside because you just saw how easy it was to make, but you do have to make it, okay? So if you just simply don't have the time or energy to make it, that's why I have 2 other picks for you. But you do have to make it. The other downside is, you notice we started with unsweetened shredded coconut. And unsweetened shredded coconut, by the way, I have a great source for you linked with this video from Wilderness Family Naturals. So unsweetened shredded coconut is usually defatted because the coconut, when the coconut is processed, the oil is removed, and what's left is the shredded coconut. So when you use it in your milk, it's not going to be as fatty or creamy as others. It's going to be kind of a light coconut milk, okay? So it's not going to have the fat content. Make sense? All right, so that is number 1. And if you'd like this recipe that I just went through, it's at askwardee.tv. It's typed up with the show notes right there. But you can also request the Dairy-Free Milks Guide because it's in there as well as a PDF that you can save to your e-reader or whatever. Okay, so now we're on tip number 2, or pick number 2. And that is really my favorite, actually. I have a picture of the package for you. Here we go. It's from Wilderness Family Naturals, and it's a coconut milk powder. And in my opinion, it makes the most superior coconut milk because it's a powder that's very convenient to blend together with water and chill. You don't need to strain it, so it's going to take less time than what I just walked you through. It also is going to have the fat of the coconut milk, so the results are so superior, and it takes a little less work because no straining than making homemade coconut milk. So it is really like my number 1 pick in terms of results and convenience, kind of all together, even though I'm listing it number 2. It's going to be a little bit more pricey than making your own coconut milk from shredded coconut, but you have that extra fatty creaminess and ease. So you can follow links with this video to check out the coconut milk powder. I want to make a couple, actually really 1 point about it. The one that I recommend is from Wilderness Family Naturals. It's the only one I recommend. There is a link to it with this video, and it's the organic coconut milk powder. It has 1 additive, and it's maltodextrin. There's 3% maltodextrin in the powder. The maltodextrin is essential, otherwise it wouldn't stay as a powder. So it's essential to making a powder, and Wilderness Family Naturals uses as little of the maltodextrin as possible to ensure a good result, but keep it as little as possible so it's as pure a coconut product as possible. Now, maybe you're thinking, oh no, that's an additive. Well, I'm totally okay with this one because, like I said, it's 3%. And if you look at other coconut milk powders that are out there, they could have lots more, okay? Lots more maltodextrin. In fact, a lot of companies use maltodextrin or sodium caseinate in greater percentage in the powder in order to use less coconut. So for them, it doesn't cost as much to produce, so to increase their profit. So Wilderness Family Naturals is using the least amount they need to ensure that it turns into a usable powder, but that it's got as much quality coconut as possible. So that is really my favorite way to make coconut milk. It's just absolutely scrumptious, and you blend it and refrigerate it like the homemade, except there's no straining step. One more thing, I mentioned you have to get the Wilderness Family Naturals organic coconut milk powder. They have a non-organic coconut milk powder, and it doesn't have the maltodextrin. It has sodium caseinate, which I would say avoid. The organic that has the maltodextrin, here's what else you need to know about it. It's not derived from dairy or corn. It's derived from tapioca. So people that are dairy-free and the least little bit of maltodextrin that came from corn or dairy, if you're sensitive to corn, could make you very sick. Well, the organic coconut milk powder won't, because the maltodextrin is from tapioca. So I'm so thankful because I think they're just doing a wonderful job of helping us balance getting a great coconut milk out of it and keeping it as healthy as possible. So that's pick number 2, but really my top choice is the coconut milk powder organic from Wilderness Family Naturals. Okay, so my third pick really is the most convenient, and on this list of best and healthiest, it's the canned coconut milk. So I don't actually feel that it's the healthiest option, but it's pretty good. It's actually really good, especially if you make sure it's organic and you make sure it's BPA free and there aren't any additives. And so there's one brand that I know of, and there may be more and I simply don't know of them, but Natural Value is a canned coconut milk. You can just reach for it, open it, and use it. There's no blending required. You don't have to chill it. This is it, BPA free. The ingredients are coconut and water, and they have an organic. There may be other brands out there, so your assignment is to let me know in the comments at askwardee.tv if you have another canned coconut milk that you know and love that's organic, BPA free, without any other additives. Let everybody know. So this episode will be a good community resource. So that's pretty much it. We went through the things to look for, went through the forms of coconut milk, and then I told you about the homemade and making it from a powder, and then what to look for in the canned coconut milk. And those are your best and healthiest options for coconut milk. It's a super delicious choice. It's a wonderful milk to use if you're dairy-free, and you absolutely can get it healthy and better than, I don't know if it's 80% of them out there are no good, but if we're at 20% or less that are good, that's the ones that we just reviewed in this episode. If you are dairy-free, be sure to check out my dairy-free milk recipes guide and substitution guide. There's a link with this video or this recording. You can also go to tradcookschool.com/dfmilks. DF-milks is one word. It stands for dairy-free milks. Thanks everyone so much for joining me. It's a blessing, truly a blessing, to be with you every week for Ask Wardee. I hope you'll come again next week, same time, same place. If you have a question, that's the hashtag. Send it on over to Wardee, WARDEE, at askwardee.tv. And thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye. God bless you.